firstly, welcome to Just Five Question Please Leadership Series. So, as you are aware, just five question please. So, we'll be asking you five questions today. The first four question would be normal, straightforward question. The fifth one would be a rapid fire round where you can answer based on your personal choices and interest, etc. So, before we dive into Just Five Question Please series, let me give a short introduction about Rajiv Srivatsava. Rajiv Srivastava is currently the partner and investor in Antler India. He was a co-founder of Urban Ladder, which was the number one omni-channel brand for furnitures in India. He has 18 plus years of experience in building scalable products and companies across B2C, B2B, B2C tech, mobile, supply chain areas with right mix of business, technology, as well as strategy and execution. Prior to Antler, he has worked as a senior product manager at Yahoo for 4 years, where he was conferred with Yahoo Superstar Award for his exceptional contribution towards Yahoo Cricket product. I'm a great fan of his TED Talk, where he talks about 100 hours that we have every week, and it's our choice to utilize them wisely. Apart from work, he runs a YouTube channel where he talks about one life theory and how important and crucial it is to live one's life to the fullest of its potential. He believes that everyone on the planet has immense potential and we need to know the right ways to tap and channelize them. It's great to have you with us, Raji, with us.
Thanks, Akash. Thanks, the Zoho team, and always been a big fan of Sridhar at Zoho, and I think what Zoho has done for the ecosystem. So happy to be here.
Thank you, Raji. So let's dive into the questions for the day. You've had quite a successful career while at Yahoo. My question here has two parts. Was it hard to quit a regular job and venture into entrepreneurship? Secondly, what would you like to say to aspiring entrepreneurs who wish to quit their well paying job and pursue their dream of building a business?
Hey, Akash. Uh, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay. So I think if I were to rewind back, of course, this was around almost a decade back, right? I think the environment at that time was obviously very different. So my answer today would be, I think if you want to start up, I think you should. There are a bunch of other things that I would say which are important, but I would say quitting a well-paying job and or quitting a big brand or just quitting anything to start up, I think today is far easier, far more appreciated than 10 years back. The risk is just far lesser. Having said that, I think you have to ask yourself three questions before you really start out. One is, what are you starting up for, right? In terms of, are you passionate about something? Do you want to go do something, solve a specific problem? Or are you just starting up because you're a bad boss or you are sort of fascinated by all the millions that people are earning? I think that's a very foundational call on why you want to become an entrepreneur in terms of, what is the driving motivation. And I would say the wrong motivations I can tell you, which is bad boss. I can tell you you'll have far more number of people you're answerable to once you start up than just one bad manager in your job. Making money, I think that's probably the worst. I think, if you align your career, you can make far more money. The romantic parts of it, in terms of just, all the press coverage and all the positive and the success, once you raise some level of funding. I think for every one such, there are 20 failures or 20 challenges that you've got to encounter, which is just not there in a big job, right? So those are all the wrong reasons. I think the right reasons in my mind again fall into sort of three big buckets. One is you're so inching to solve a problem, which, you just don't find the way to solve it through your day job, right? Whether that's, solving maybe making a new way to buy something or a new way for happiness or a new way for mobility or whatever it is, right? So I think you have to be super passionate about something. Two is you are what I would call it as you have the entrepreneurial blood in you in terms of just doing something completely from scratch. So you're a creator at heart, right? Which would have shown in a lot of ways, right? And I'm not saying this is important for everyone, but I know enough entrepreneurs who have never created something before they started up. But I think it's important that you are a creator at school. You were always doing some side project. You are a great hustler. Even in your company, you were doing something which is called just creative, or you were just doodling on the side and creating some stuff. It could be a creator in the media field. It could be a creator in the music field. I think so. That's something that you would show in you in a variety of ways. even earlier on in life, right? So solving a big problem that you're passionate about, or being a creator some part of your life. The last thing I would say is uh, building an institution, right? Building an institution or building a legacy beyond you, right? If that's something that gives you the kick, because at the end of the day, being entrepreneurial or doing a startup is far more about than just creation or solving a customer problem. You're also building an institution which has to stand the test of time beyond you. And usually, these kind of people generally love building teams or love building brands or love building cultures, love interfacing with a variety of people. Because you have usually when you build an institution, you have a lot of different stakeholders, right? That's customers, that's society, that's investors, that's partners, that's vendors. So I think you just need to want to build an institution and build a legacy. And usually, more than two of these three should be very strong in you, right? If you want to really build something as a startup. Now, having said all that, these are not the criteria by which you decide which idea to go after. That's a separate set of, things that I would sort of evaluate. But this is just sort of going after, do you want to really be, a founder or a startup creator? I think you'll have to answer some of these questions. And I can go into, if you want, I can also go into the depths of what are the ways in which you'll evaluate which idea and stuff. But this is sort of a broad guidelines, I would say, for anyone who's in a company who wants to start up. At the end of the day, I just don't think there's enough risk. And even if you think there's some financial risk, I would say if you can cut down your lifestyle, your monthly expenses, and if you have enough of a bank balance, which most people should have if they've earned or they've worked for at least 4 or 5 years in a good company, if you can provide for the next 18 months for your lifestyle, where you can take a zero salary and go do something, you should absolutely go do it, because I think the workforce will certainly take you back in terms of if you're smart enough, I would say the workforce will certainly take you back. So that risk is silly. As long as, even the financial risk here is 18 months without salary. If your bank balance can take care of your expenses, I think you should go do this. So these are the broad contours of what I would evaluate before you start up.
Okay. Thanks, Rajiv. Move on to the next question. You mentor many early stage startups. Can you share with us top reasons why startups fail, at least based on your experience?
So if you look at the startup success or failure, first of all, you have to qualify what success is or what failure is, right? Failure at the end of the day is really just shutting down without any kind of an end in sight, right? Failure is not an acquisition. Failure is not raising money, right? Failure is not having 2 3 years of lull before taking off again, right? Failure really is shutting down a company, right? Now then, there are a lot of micro failures, right? When I say micro failures, micro successes and micro failures. You have lived as a startup, you have served a lot of customers, you have had a lot of team members, you have, actually given careers to a lot of people. You have gone and given, some new light into solving a particular problem. You got acquired by someone. I think there, what happens is maybe some of these are great acquisitions, some of these the investors don't make as much money. So there are a lot of these micro failures which are also in the current world called failures, right? Which I don't think is really failures, right? Because you've done something for a bout of time. Then there is successes, right? And now, why do startups fail there? I can write a separate book on it. I think there are 25 reasons. It's very difficult to cover that in one conversation on why startups really fail, because there are so many reasons, right? And if you look at the funnel, let's say there are 3,000 to 4,000 companies that really start up in India every year, and maybe there are 150 companies that get funded, right? So 95% of startups either just survive, or some of them maybe 60 70% after a 2 year period just fail, right? It could be because they are going after the wrong market. It could be because there was never a product market fit. It could be because there was clashes between founders. It could be because they just didn't know how to build a team. It could be because they ran out of money. It could be because the strategy was wrong. There are a variety of reasons. It could be because some very heavily funded competitor came and ate them up. There are too many reasons: wrong partner calls, wrong team calls. As I said, I think there's just too many reasons why startups fail. But the ones that succeed, I would say that small percentage of them. I think it's not enough to get one of it right, but I think there's a lot of it that they have gotten right over time, right? Which is everything from co-founder chemistry to product market fit to the right amount of funding to the right culture to the right, execution engine to actually build and scale it up, to a lot of luck in a variety of ways that, they got something that someone else did not. I think it's too many, variables even for success that I think at the end of the day, it's so hard to predict. Someone who's greatly successful first 2 years, 3 years, 4 years might at the end of it fail. So you can't really predict end success. Even companies like WeWork, which have raised billions of dollars, right? At the end of it, have not been as successful as, let's say, raising or going public, right? So it's very difficult to predict success irrespective of how much money you have raised or not raised, right? There are companies like Zoho which have never raised money, which are super successful in terms of client base. So I think it's very difficult to predict one formula for success or for failure. I would say just do the right thing by the customer, do the right thing by the team, build something which lasts the test of time. Very low chance that if you do all of this sustainably well in terms of either raising capital from venture capitalists or just raising, having enough cash from what customers pay you, I would say you will sort of avoid failure and low chance that you will not be successful.
Okay. So true, Rajiv. Thanks. I do understand when you say that it depends on how we define failures. What do you actually mean by failures? And maybe then we can reverse engineer on why startups actually fail. In the struggle for survival, focusing on customer experience takes a backseat. How do startups differentiate themselves based on how they serve their customers?
I think if you look at this, it all comes back to what you're doing business for and what is success for you, right? I think at a very broad level, there are three kinds of customer metrics, right? If you look at what is customer success, one is how strong is your referral score, measured by net promoter score. In terms of customer referability, is it very high? Some of the best businesses in the world have a referability score of at least 70 or more out of 100, right? An NPS of at least 70. An NPS of even 50 is pretty good because the way the score is calculated is very, very difficult to get even a 50 score. Companies that don't do really well always fall in the NPS less than 25 bucket, right? And some companies can even have a negative NPS, right? So referability is a great way to sort of measure customer happiness. And I'll first touch upon the ways to measure customer happiness before I say how to go after this whole thing, right? Then there is something called customer satisfaction, which is how satisfied are customers, right? That's not referability, but how satisfied are customers with your service or your product, right? Then there's a third aspect called, and customer satisfaction can be on a scale of 5, can be on a scale of 10. It's the most simplistic score. The third one is what is called the customer effort score, which is how much effort is the customer putting to actually go through a particular flow, right? Customer effort score can be measured by a specific flow. To buy a product from your website, how easy, difficult is it for customers? To return a product, how easy, difficult is it for customers? That is usually on a scale of 7. And, anything I think upwards of on a, different people do it differently. But if it is any lower than 5, that essentially means that customers are having a very hard time in terms of actually going through the particular set of flows, right? And it's at a micro level. Now, at an organization level, you will have to fundamentally, at a very values level, figure out whether you are playing a price game or you are playing a brand and a customer game, right? Very evolved organizations can play both the pricing and the customer service game. Example is Amazon, right? They also say I'll have the biggest reach in terms of accessibility of number of products. I'll have the best prices, and I'll also have the best customer service. It takes a humongous ability to get there, and Amazon took many years to get to profitability, right? Before they actually got onto the hockey stick, right? I mean, it took them almost 15 years to really make the story so strong that people started believing through AWS and stuff, right? You'll have to either be wedded to the market and the product and the business for 10, 15 years to be playing that game where you want to win on everything. Or if you say, I want to win on price, you sort of say that, okay, on the customer score, I will be a reasonable player. If you want to build on quality, if you want to build on brand, then you say, I'm going to be super customer obsessed. And the way you become super customer obsessed is you measure all these three different metrics and bring in customer obsession as a value inside your company which every employee, the way they measure themselves, success for them, finding a particular person, how what is celebrated inside the system, everything is rewarded at a very customer level. Now, irrespective of what the company stages, whether company has raised money or not, whether the company is fighting for its survival or not, I don't think at a very foundational level, customer ethos can be changed. You can't say that, hey, I'm doing well, I'll be customer centric. If I'm not doing well, I'll not be customer centric. It doesn't work that way, right? You can reduce your team, reduce it. Even let's say worst of times, you don't have the money. You can cut down on marketing. You can cut down on your team. You can't cut down on your customer ethos because overnight you can't just become someone else, right? And what happens as companies scale up is companies go through these different phases where they're not automating enough, or they're not really, they're just trying to scale up too much where customer service is going for a toss. Those companies really suffer, right? Because the moment they become someone they are not, customers' bad words also are spread as fast as customer good words. Okay, and customers, are extremely, in this market today, they have a lot of access. So if you're going to be screwing up on customer service, you can't really, unless you do a great job, come back and fix it and stuff, right? So you can't look at customer service as sort of what you will do based on how well the company is doing or how the macro market is. It is at a very foundational level based on your ethos. If you are very customer obsessed, you should measure all three and you should have a world class for everything, put it as part of values. If you are playing a different game, which is maybe price oriented, range oriented, you maybe do not have the ability to play a customer service game too strong, maybe then go for a 40 on an NPS or a 35 on an NPS, not a 70 on NPS. Maybe go for a CSAT, which is 3.5 on 5, not a 4 or a 4.5 on 5. Maybe go for a customer effort score, which is maybe 4 on 7, not a 5 or a 6 on 7, right? So I think it depends. And I don't think today in the current world, anyone can go below this, right? If you're bad on customer, you're going to die, right? So I think you play either the great customer game, you play the mid customer game. I don't think you have an option to play the bad customer game in this age. Maybe 5 years back, 10 years back, that was possible. So you're left with playing one of these two games, and what you do, is I think at a very specific point in time, how fast you automate something. You can have a gradation here. You can play a great NPS game. You can still have a bad CES. That's still okay. You can have a great NPS, a good CSAT, and a bad CES is okay for some time. But with time, you'll have to build great NPS, great CSAT, and great CES, right? How does great CES happen? You automate a lot of stuff, right? So you can get to automating a lot of stuff with time, but you still can't. If customers have a bad experience with you, they will never refer you, and if that's less than 30 or so, you're going to get screwed. You'll never build a great business.
I get that. Thanks for explaining, Rajiv. Let's move on to the next question. What are some of the most important lessons you have learned from your journey with founding Urban Ladder?
That's a book again. It's so difficult to encapsulate that in 3 4 minutes. But I would say if I were to just, you know, put my top three, right? I think one, the founder journey is pretty quite insane, right? I think founders make or break a startup. I think the founders need to be very aware of the role that they play. They have to continuously grow themselves as founders. Their mental health has to be in order. They need to take help where they need to. They need to be coached. They need to be very highly self-aware. If there are multiple founders, the communication between these founders needs to be super strong. And founders need to take certain calls. Sometimes founders are not ready to play certain roles. They need to take a back seat if the startup demands. So I think the different roles that the founder plays and the different hats that the founder wears and the consistent help and the growth that the founder needs. The only way a startup can be something great is if the founders are ready and have a set of people around them that they can do this journey very strongly with. So that's my biggest learning, right? So just the founder journey. The second I would say is be clear on who you are and what you're doing at any point in time, and don't keep wavering, right? You can't just keep shifting strategy every quarter based on the macro market, based on competition, based on how much money you have. Wavering strategy just confuses the heck out of people. It just keeps changing the goalposts, and people down below, especially as an organization grows, you just cannot do this, right? And I would say that's one of the biggest lessons. A lot of the times when we did things really well was when there was clear strategy and execution. A lot of the times when we did not do well was when that was really wavering, right? So companies need to be super clear on they are. They can always alter it with time. They can grow, they can align values, they can change values, they can even tweak vision, right? But you can't keep, this quarter let's go for great growth, next quarter let's go for great customer service, next quarter let's go for profitability. It just doesn't work, right? It has to be super aligned. So I would say stick to a strategy for at least the duration and align people, give a good shot at it, tweak, change based on the market, but don't like completely do 180-degree shifts in short time periods. That's just stupid. The third one I would say is be very strong on three things: product, people, and what I would call the third bucket as performance, right? I would say at any stage, if you're very clear on the product you're building and that's great on what it does for customers and super focused on scaling that up. Two is on the people that you're hiring, on the people you're working with, on the people you pull in as investors, on the people that you're sort of working overall with and what you're promising to all these people, the culture, and what you set for them. And the third is measure yourself in a very objective way, right? In terms of the performance that you're setting, be objective about the company's performance, the people's performance, and have clear measures in your own founder performance. I think founders need to be super focused on these three in my mind. Everything else, I think you can sort of align. Sales, process, marketing, all that is solvable with great people, right? But I think these three are the core of what you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing. And I think I would say as a company, as founders, you have to be super, focused on these three aspects of how you're setting some of these benchmarks, the kind of people you're getting, as well as the product you're building.
Let's move on to the rapid fire session where we have some simple 5 easy questions. You can answer them based on your personal choices and whatever is the very first thought that comes to your mind. So starting with that, say you have abilities to read people's mind. Name 3 people on which you would like to try this power.
One, my spouse, 2, my kids, and my daughter. Third would be, never thought about this. Third would be maybe Bill Gates. I have the highest respect for him, so maybe Bill Gates.
Okay. So if you could teach one subject in school, what would it be?
Happiness.
Okay. Given your course on One Life Theory, what is something you will not be doing in the next 10 years?
Interesting question. What is the one thing I'll not be doing in the next 10 years? I don't think I would waste time too much on people or products or things that don't move me towards my own One Life Theory, right? It's sort of a very convoluted answer, but I think there's only so much time we all have, and I'm sure you talked about that. So now, which essentially means that I will either be spending time with founders, building great products and scalable startups with Antler. I'll be spending time on myself to make sure my mental and physical health are great. I'll be spending time with my spouse and my kids and my very close people and friends in terms of making sure that I am around them and they're around me, because there's no time to waste. Outside of that, I hardly have much time, and I obviously will sort of talk about One Life Theory and make sure that spreads to millions of people to reach their own potential. Outside of that, I think I've just cut down on literally every other thing, right? So there's a lot of not do things in the bucket. It's basically everything outside of these 3-4 buckets.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, moving on to the 5th question. Okay, I guess we are in the 4th question. 3 things that you were tired of working with startups.
The funny part is that this is not a politically correct thing. Whenever I work with startups, and for me, really, that's only been in the last 6-9 months, right? Because, that before that I was part of Urban Ladder, and I was just unofficially working with certain founders in the October 2019 till March 2020 period, right, for 6-7 months. There is not one conversation or one thread, whether they wanted me to connect with someone or one specific help that I have gotten either bored or tired of. And it's just, it feels like this is the best way to sort of engage my time, and I would do it even if there's no money involved. I would get right. So uh, I just do not have a single answer on this.
Okay. Name one thing that you have learned the hard way.
Everything in life is learned the hard way. Everything that I am right now is learned the hard way. As much as I think you gave a great introduction on all the successes, I think for every one of those successes that you mentioned, I think there are 10 failures which are either linked, which are not on LinkedIn or I don't talk about as much, though maybe in my podcast I talk about it. I think everything is learned the hard way, and everything is learned only with experience. So I would say there's nothing that's learned too easy. Actually, you're not. Actually, I have a very special philosophy here that I don't think you're going through life and its fullest capability if you don't go through it with all its successes and failures. Right? You're just seeing one part of life. That's not really life. Uh, so I would say everything is learned the hard way. I don't call it the hard way as much as I just call it the right way. Because and I have made a lot of mistakes, and I will be making a lot more new mistakes. But I think it's just part of life. It's not the hard way; it's just the right way.
And thanks a
So,
lot for joining the Just Five Question Please series. It's amazing to have you with us, and all the learning and the things that we could discuss and debate and actually talk about through this platform. It's a pleasure always talking with you, Rajiv.
thanks, Akash, for having me. Thanks to the whole team. Appreciate it.
Sure, sure,
Bye.
sure. Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you. Have a great year ahead. Thank you.